Hello my friends, good to be back again. Today I wanted to go into two books really that I've been reading over the past week or two. The first one, as you can see, is The Book of the Cave of Treasures. When I first went to read it, I thought it was to do with the actual Cave of Treasures, but it's actually history from Adam to Yeshua. And it talks about the 1,000 years at a time, kind of like how I did in one or two videos back. And it's quite strange that I found it like this, but it does kind of tie in similarly to what I've said as well. There's a couple of things in here I wanted to mention. Now, this Cave of Treasures book is actually a compilation of someone from around 200 years ago or less wrote this book, but they compiled it from other books like the Book of the Bee and so on and so on. So some of the understanding in here I don't really know about. For example, it talks about the fallen ones being the sons of Adam coming down from the mountain, from Mount Hermon, and then sleeping with the women. But then what you clearly read in other scriptures in the Bible and stuff is that these fallen angels came down and they taught the women stuff. And in this, it's trying to say that it was the sons that came down from the mountain that were teaching them. However, there was this one part in it that it kind of talk about when Jared was convinced by Satan to come off the mountain to come down to where all the sons of Cain were. It's quite interesting. So he got this note from the Book of Adam. It says, Jared continued to govern the people successfully until the end of the 485th year of his life. At this time, Satan and 30 of his devils appeared to Jared in the form of handsome men and called him from the Cave of Treasures. He came out to them and thought that they were strangers and asked them who they were. In answer, Satan told him he was Adam, and that among his companions were Abel, Seth, Enos, Canaan, and the kinsman of Jared. He invited Jared to come to him, to live with him in the garden of God they had given him, and at length Jared was persuaded to leave the cave and go with him. When they arrived at the top of the mountain with the sons of Cain, Satan pretended that he had left a garment for Jared by the cave, sent one of his devils back to fetch it, telling him at the same time to extinguish the lamp which was burning in the cave near Adam's body. Satan and Jared rested by a fountain. See, there was fountains in them days as well. And food was brought out to them by the sons and daughters of Cain. But Jared refused to eat and drink. Satan entreated him to aside his sadness and to do what he was going to do. Thereupon Satan and 5 of his devils each seized a woman and committed fornication with her. And on seeing this exhibition of iniquity, Jared burst into tears and began to pray to God to be delivered from that place. When he began to pray, the devils took flight, and God sent an angel who brought him back to his holy mountain. And when he returned to the cave, his people told him the lamp had been extinguished, and that the bodies of the patriarchs had been scattered about, and that the voices had been coming from them. On entering the cave, a voice came from Adam's body and warned him to beware of Satan and his wiles, and told him to relight the lamp at the fire of the altar at which Adam had ministered. And basically it goes on to when Jared's children were about, same situation happened to them, and they were convinced to go down, and they did sleep with the women down there. And it goes on to say that it was them that were the giants that came down from the mountain, but I don't think it is entirely that way. Anyway, the point of bringing this book up is this bit here, the year of the Mudflood, apparently. So, in the 100th year of the life of Nahor, when God saw that the children of men were sacrificing their sons to devils and worshipping idols, he opened the storehouses of the wind and the gate of the whirlwind, and the blast of wind went forth in all the earth, and it uprooted images, and the places where offerings were made to devils, and it swept together the idols and the images, and the pillared buildings in a heap, and piled them up in great mounds of earth over them. and they are there to this day. Now to this blast of wind, men learned, had given it the name Windflood, but certain who have erred have said these mounds existed already in the days of the flood of waters. Now those who have said these things have erred greatly from the truth. For before the flood of waters there were no idols on earth, and it was not because of the idols that flood came, but because of the fornication of the daughters of Cain. And moreover, at the time there were no men on this earth, which was a waste and a desert, and our fathers were cast forth in days of old, as it were, into exile, because they were not worthy to be neighbours of paradise. And though the ark, they were driven forth into the mountains of Cardo, and from there were scattered throughout all the earth. For these mounds came into being because of idols, and in them are buried all the idols of that time, and the devils also who dwell in them are in these mounds, and there is no mound which hath not devils in it. So that's saying the mudflood came in the 100th year of Nahor, which is quite interesting, and it's saying also that people erred in believing this book. So this book was written within the past 200 years. So he's talking about how many times in the past have they realised and rediscovered these buildings as we are today. So he's saying they erred, saying it was from the flood, because if you dig up these mounds, you'll find pillars and statues and the first floor or second floor of buildings and stuff like that. So I looked into Nahor, believing him to be Abraham's granddad. I went to start doing the dates. Can you see that? Yeah. I went to start doing the dates, and then whilst I was doing it, I realised there's two Nahors. There's Nahor, which is Abraham's granddad, and there's Nahor, which is Abraham's brother. So I got the year of the flood and Noah, and I worked out after so many years each one was born, all the way down to Abraham. And I had Nahor up here, Nahor 1. He was born in 1849 after Adam. And then Nahor 2, I can't find the date for him, but Abraham was born in 1948, and I don't think he was his twin, but he could have potentially been born in the same year. It only takes 9 months to have a baby, so it is possible to have two births in the same year. So what I've put for Nahor 2 is he was born in 1948 or later, because I don't know. That's the earliest it could be. It could be after that. So the mud flood happened 100 years after Nahor, or in the 100th year of Nahor, sorry. And because there's two, I've got two dates. So I've got the year 1948 and the year 2048, or later, depending which one it is. Now, when you consider it, if it's 1948, if it's in the 100th year of Nahor number 1, it would have happened in 1948, which would have been the same year of Abraham's birth. But you don't hear anything in the Bible about things like that happening at Abraham's birth. So I consider it to be Nahor's brother, the 100th year of his life. And that could possibly tie in with what it says in the Bible about when Abraham's told to get out of his father's house, because it's about to be destroyed for believing in false idols. And that would tie in with the mud flood also, having false idols under the mounds. So I've got it down that the mud flood happened in the year 2048 or later, which would have been 392 or more years after Noah's flood. And you could build up a population quite quickly in 400 years. I mean, look at America. How many people were there 400 years ago and how many are there now? So as population growths actually do multiply, it's very possible. That being said, that would have been 3,500 years ago, something like that, that this catastrophe happened. So these buildings that are affected by it are a lot older than we think, and you know, maybe the facade has always been a way of making things look magnificent. You know, maybe in the first it was all stone, and then after that it was brick covered with magnificent wood carving, stuff like that. But anyway, that's what I found about it. But this book is actually still really interesting. It goes down to 5,500 years where Yeshua was born and died and risen as Christ. And if I quickly show that, the book says Yeshua was born after 5,500 years, and on my calendar I've got Yeshua in the 4th day, 2nd week, and that's still 5,000 and something years. As you know, like the first 1,000 years aren't numbered 1001, 1002, they're numbered 1, 2, 3, and then the second 1,000 years are numbered 1001, 1002. So that's how that happens. And where I said before in my last video looking at this was that with the 5th and the 6th day, I'm not sure about 1,000 years. Well, this next book anyway kind of gives a bit of detail and reveals something else as well. So this next book is Fox's Book of Martyrs. You know, I've been listening to a lot of scripture and stuff recently, and what I've always done is look for knowledge and answers of potentially the older stuff, stuff that talks about, you know, like Enoch, that talks about the earth and stuff like that. And lately I've just wanted to know what the wisdom of Yeshua is about, and there's not really that much stuff in the Bible about what he says, so I've been wanting to know more of what he said in his time here. And the best way I've figured out is to start reading more about the people that were around him and the people that heard his word. And I found some stuff, and it's really interesting. I have a different kind of understanding about things, but I can't really go into that just yet because I don't understand it myself. I need to do some more research and work out what it exactly means. But for now, just getting back into this book, this explains a lot, and this book is a really long one. I spent over a day reading it and realised that I weren't that far into it, so I stopped. But it talks about all the martyrs, and it starts with the people that were around Yeshua at the time. Excuse me. And there's actually countless and countless of them, and I hope I haven't lost the page. I hope this is it. Yeah, so here, I'll read this out, and it answers something else that we've been looking into as well. It's been said that the lives of the early Christians consisted of persecution above ground and prayer below ground. Their lives are expressed by the Colosseum and the Catacombs, believe it or not. Beneath Rome are the excavations which we call the Catacombs, which were once temples and tombs. The early Church of Rome might be well called the Church of the Catacombs. There are some 60 catacombs near Rome. Some 600 miles of galleries have been traced. All these are not all of them. These galleries are about 8 feet high and from 3 to 5 feet wide, containing on either side several rows of long, low, horizontal recesses, one above the other like berths in a ship. In these, the dead bodies were placed in front and closed, either by a single marble slab or by several great tiles laid in mortar. On these slabs or tiles, epitaphs or symbols are graved and painted. Both pagans and Christians buried there, dead in the catacombs. When the Christian graves have been opened, the skeletons tell their own terrible tales. Heads are found severed, ribs and shoulder blades are broken, bones are often calcined from fire. But despite this awful story of persecution, anyway, the point was catacombs. And you know, when you look at, say, even in Paris, where they've got what's said, over 9 million bones in their catacomb. This book describes the different waves of persecution and the years that they happened, and then, you know, around this time, the 7th persecution in 249, and when you read the horrific stuff that these innocent people went through, so many countless people in every country across the whole earth, they were all spreading the word of Yeshua, and they were going as martyrs joyfully on occasion. You know, obviously they were scared, and what happened to them was just evilly bad and got worse and worse in different horrid ways. But the amount of people that went through it and went through it joyfully because they understood the message and that they were also conveyors of the message. That's why they were killed, because they knew and they understood the truth. And they say that Rome ended, 300 or 400 AD. So, you know, these persecutions that just kept going on. These are waves of people turning away from the rule of deception. And it goes on about different persecutions in different countries, different individuals that were sent as apostles to countries that would give the message and be persecuted and tortured to death. And then the people that believed and understood the message went through the same thing. And, you know, that's what Yeshua means when he says, pick up your cross and follow me. And at the moment, there's many people in the world that do love Christ, and do love God, and think they're doing everything right. We're not exactly doing everything right just yet, but everyone's still sleeping slightly. But when the time comes and the understanding is released to us, that we might all understand the purpose of our life, really, then whoever was called, those that hear are the ones that speak and tell. So the ones that see are the ones that reveal. So this goes on literally when you read it, from even just the sections that I read, millions and millions of people persecuted and tortured and murdered in horrible ways. And to the people that killed them catacombs, to them might be tombs of pride, of treasure, I suppose, of their physical lives and whatever and what they've done. But to God, they're a holding place for those that will come back once again when Christ returns. Well, I've shared these books and I'll put the links down below anyway. Obviously reading the second one, it's not going to be a happy read. But I know people are always against so-called fearful talk and teachings, but the truth is the truth. You know, I'd rather the bitter truth than the sweet lie. And if this is what the purpose of life is, then I'd be more than happy to share it with everyone. So I'll put these links in the books below, and good readings, and I'll speak with you all soon. Take care and God bless.